Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Council meeting on Wednesday the 30th of October. Welcome along the councillors, the staff, the members of the public in the gallery, media, and all those at home who are listening in. I'll call for apologies now, and I have an apology from Councillor Mackle. So I'd like to move that we receive the apology. Councillor Todd, Councillor Brahm, all in favour, please say aye. Carried. Extraordinary business, I know of none. Declarations of interest. Call for declarations, none. And we have the public forum. And welcome Jolene and Richard Wilson. Jolene Laxton, Richard Wilson, that's the other Richard Wilson. And Jolene will speak on behalf of the group. Jolene, you've got about 5 minutes to speak, and then council will probably ask you some questions. So the floor is yours. Tell us what you'd like to talk to us about.
Good afternoon, Councillor and Mayor. Thank you very much for the opportunity to meet and share our request with you today. On behalf of the signed local businesses, we would like Council to consider the impact that closing the Central Town access roads during business hours has on our local businesses within the area. When the roads from Moore Street to Havelock Street and East Street to Cass Street have their access closed off, then a majority of the businesses within this area suffer financially. Due to the fact that our local customers do not come to town on these days because of the lack of access that we have to these streets and the lack of parking that is available outside of these streets on these days. Research shows that when businesses are largely dependent on road access to their business, then they face disruption in customer flow due to road closures and detours, and this has a negative impact on the local businesses. With local trade for most of these businesses within this area being around 80 to 90%, then these businesses suffer a loss anywhere between 30 and 50% on these days. Some businesses on these days actually make the decision to close because 100% of their trade are local customers, and these customers do not want to come to town because of the limited access that they have to their businesses. Another financial issue that local businesses have to deal with on these market days is shoplifting, with a number of businesses reporting a dramatic increase in theft on these days. Being informed by the event holder of the event only 7 days prior means that a lot of businesses are unable to hire extra staff. This then puts pressure on our staff and ultimately puts our businesses at risk. Yes, road closures are advertised in the local papers and the council news 42 days in advance, but not everybody reads the paper. And even when questioning 3 different councillors in early September, if they knew whether the event was happening, they were not aware of it either. So it's not just us that doesn't read the news. Perhaps in the future, it could be seen as part of the application process for the road closure that event organisers have to communicate with businesses within the affected area and inform them of the event happening before they can put their submission into council for road closure applications to be accepted. These market day events, although yes, they do bring people into our community and give us an opportunity to showcase our district, they do not bring customers into our local businesses that work hard to support our local community. We are closing our roads and limiting our access to run an event that has more out-of-town stallholders than it does local stallholders and is held on a public holiday for another district. During my research on this, I could not find another district in New Zealand where the council allows this to happen. We believe that the main street of our town is not the prime position for these activities anymore, and would like to request that in the future these market day events not be held in the CBD area and that they are relocated to either Barrington Square or the Domain. We believe that this would then open up the centre of town, allowing both local customers and market goers the ability to wander the market and explore our town centre without causing any difficulty to right of access for businesses. We believe that this would be a better way to invite people to our community and to include our own community. In our letter of request, we did propose that the CBD becomes a non-event zone or a non-road closure zone. However, in saying this, it would be a shame to see all events banned. For example, the community Christmas event that does bring our community together, and most of which is held outside of general business hours. It has been disappointing as local businesses to have to bring our concerns regarding this to council again. Moving forward from this, what we would like to see come from the report from today is that the CBD not be allowed to be used as a location for these market day events anymore, and that these events are relocated to our more communal areas of our township. Thank you.
Thanks, Jolene, for that. Richard, do you want to add anything?
No, I think.
Well, I think it's well
I think
presented.
she's said
Yeah,
very
very well presented. We've got questions from councillors. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you for that. I just have a question. You said the market organiser let you know 7 days beforehand. So do they come and visit you in the shops? Do they ring you? Do they email you? How do they let you know?
We received a letter placed on our counter in regards to giving us information that the day was happening. There was no physical communication bar a letter placed on our counter to let us know that the event was happening within 7 days.
Right. And do they leave a phone number or something like that so you can give them a call?
I'm pretty sure that there was a cell phone number on it. I've got a picture of it. Because I was asking her questions as she walked out the door, and she just walked out the door.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor Lovett.
Were the businesses offered space right outside their shops?
No, not prior to. When we received the 7-day notice, some of the local businesses did approach the event organiser. She did take quite a few days to respond back, and I am aware of one local stall holder who did approach her probably 3 to 4 weeks prior to the event happening, and they were told that they wouldn't be able to have a space in it, even though they are a local market holder here on our other weekends that we have markets.
And the other question I had, do you know, you said there was businesses shut. Do you know how many businesses actually did shut for the day with the market?
At this stage, it was one business that
So
advertised
one.
that they were closing because of it.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Thanks, Jolene. That was very interesting. And as you said, we have heard that before, and I think Bob did a presentation
Yes.
in 2022
Yep.
to say the same thing. With regards to the where do people park when they come for the market day? So they park on West Street in the public. Where do people actually
So
park?
a lot of people park in the West Street car parking,
Yeah.
also down the side roads. A lot of vehicles are sitting in those side road parks
Yeah.
all day, down Moore Street and along the other streets that are available for parking, but they are parking there all day in those spots.
And can I ask a few subsequent questions, please? I also note that a lot of the stalls were food stalls, so I guess that was, I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that was not necessarily a positive thing for our local hospitality stores either. But if there was a food stall out the front and they dropped an ice cream, was that all tidied up afterwards for when you guys went back to business as usual?
A majority of it is tidied up. On feedback from some of the retailers or some of the businesses that I spoke to that either were involved in it or saw the events on the pack up, they did feel that it was quite a dangerous pack up sort of a system,
Yeah.
because there was no marshalling for vehicles coming in to pack down their equipment, and the event organiser was not present at the time to organise that either.
Okay. We had at council a discussion last week or the week before with regards to the light up, the Christmas tree thing. And I remember many years ago, we were really keen to see that Christmas tree in the CBD because it made a noise and a vibe. Do you have a view on where the Christmas tree should be located?
As far as my understanding is from talking with the local businesses, that is an area that is a good area for it to have. It does bring that Christmas festivity into the centre of town, and it's a community-based activity. It is for our community. It's run by council. It's generally outside of business hours. So for us, and personally, I feel that any community event that is for our local community, that brings our community together, is a positive for a community to have.
And with your one more question, please, Neil. You talked about in your report that some of the businesses saw a decrease in turnover between 30 and 50%. How
correct.
long would it take you in a normal life to recoup that? If there was a 50% drop or a 60% drop, is it, would it take you a month of trading or 6 months? Or how long?
A good 4 to 6 months, definitely. Yeah,
That's very
because on
tough.
top of that loss, you've also got the added cost of if you do have extra staff that you can pull in for that day, and also you've still got the running costs of your business for that day, but you've also got the loss of product that is taken
That's right, that's
through
stolen.
theft.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. Well done, Jolene. It's pretty daunting presenting in here. Is there any flexibility into your ban? I'm just thinking that I understand, you know, it's probably the all-day thing that's the big bugbear.
Yep,
But the
definitely.
likes of the Centre Parade, or if Mid Canterbury had won the rugby, if they'd had a wee sort of street parade for an hour or so, is there some flexibility for that to take
Yes,
place?
definitely, and as I said before, you know, they're community events. This is an outside stall owner event, which is not run on a day that our community can actually be involved in it. The proceeds of this day do not go back to our community. It's not run to give donations to a charitable service that we have within our community. It's a private event. So therefore, by allowing our main street to be closed off for a private event that's not giving back to our community, most of the money on that day goes out of our community to spend in their own communities, not within our economic group here. So I think for any other community council organised event, you know, it's a judgment call to a certain extent, and it is more about it being closed for that whole day.
Right. So there does need to be some wording around
Yep.
some flexibility
Yeah.
there.
And as I said before, you know, to go to a non-event zone or a non-road closure zone is quite extreme. And I don't think it needs to be to that extreme. It needs to be an event-based decision.
Councillor Bryan.
Thank you. Jolene Richard, how are you? Just a question for me, a couple of them. Are you happy to do it in the weekend? So outside business
Outside
time?
business hours, yeah.
Evenings, fine? So it's basically
Yeah,
the day
because
itself.
the effect on the majority of the businesses is a lot less, and when it's held in an evening, then it brings in different people into that event to partake in it as well, and it's not affecting as many businesses as it does when it's closing during those business hours of day business hours.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Councillor Todd.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Jolene. Thanks, Richard. I'll probably be fair. I hear your frustration, but I'm pleased from the original submission that you had that you wanted to close permanently with nothing on, basically. But there's now a bit of flexibility there that for like light up the Christmas tree or whatever. Because my concern was that, say if we wanted to have America's Cup parade through town, or the pipe band champs were on, or whatever, they would have a thing going through that
Yeah.
you're against that, but you're not actually against
No,
one-off something that's closed for an hour or 2 hours, and it's the all-day thing.
that's correct.
So like one maybe possibility for the Boulevard Day type thing would be locating at the Bering Square and maybe from Havelock Street towards Countdown North or something like that, but it's away from those 4 blocks really is the main
And
concern.
that would eliminate that closing off that whole access
Correct.
area to
That's
that
right.
central business district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's fine, thank you.
Just before I go to Councillor Ellis, I have one question or a couple of myself. Mondays, it's always on the Monday, is Mondays generally a quieter day's trading?
It is quite different trading now. You know, some days, Mondays can be quieter, and then other weeks it can be quite a busy day. The weekdays tend to fluctuate now. There's not really a set norm anymore like there used to be.
We normally have a good Monday, to be fair.
Yeah, we're
So that-
definitely down. You don't mind me saying, we're definitely down by quite a huge percent on that day when the roads are closed compared to our other Mondays that we trade.
Thank you. And you suggested a couple of locations, one's out here and one was Domain, I think. What about the West Street car park? Half of it or something?
Definitely, you know, we run
That's
a
o- that
market
would be
there
okay.
already. Our understanding was it couldn't go there because of the West Street,
There's a road
the,
zone.
the state highway.
State highway, right. And you're probably right. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. It's just a thought I had. So we've got a Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Just on the West Street car park, that day is also Bukarama Day, and a lot of people looking for car parks on that day for that too. Does it seem fair to you that you guys who are in the CBD pay a premium on your rates for extra cleaning and various things around the CBD, and then these markets can come in and close the road and piggyback on what you have done at no real extra cost?
No, it doesn't seem fair.
I think that's got to the end of questions, and I'm not sure what council is actually able to do re-closure, and we just don't know whether we can close for whatever. I'm sure there's rules around it. Perhaps there's it's an all or a none, don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to give an issues and options report on what can happen for the CBD closure, and he'll bring that back to us in, how long do you think, Hamish, will take to?
We'll do that report. We'll have a look at the suitable timeframe, but I imagine it would take us probably 4 weeks to generate a sensible report for council's consideration.
So before Christmas,
Yeah,
I
try
would
and
think, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's urgent because it's just been,
Yep.
and it's
Yep,
1
definitely
year
not.
to go, but if we can do
And
that.
do you
shall
want
we?
us to partake in that report process as well? Will you be coming and asking us as individual
I
businesses?
think in terms of options, we would be reflecting what we've heard you say today, and looking at what is possible for council to come to a view as to what options might sensibly exist, and then before any decision was made, I think a round of checking back in, and we're also conscious of course, there's a wider group than just yourselves that the council would probably want to hear from before a final decision was made. I think in terms of issues and options, we've got to work out what is possible under whatever legislation or bylaws are at play. But we'll just keep in mind that offer, I think, is the right thing. But before any decision was made, that would definitely be done.
So shall we formalise that, and I'll move that we ask for an issues and options report to look at CBD closure
I'll second that.
options, yeah. Philip will grab the real wording of it, but we've got the intention. You second it?
And I'd also like to make a
You
comment.
speak to it.
Okay, can I do that now? I think that's important that we do that, and as you say, Hamish, there are other people that aren't represented here, although I know you had a lot of signatures on your letter. I think also as part of that report, we need to support the CBD, and we need to enhance the vibrancy and the vibe and the feel and the foot traffic and everything in the CBD, which we're using with the counters and stuff now. But I think things like the Christmas tree, which we have discussed moving to here, we need to perhaps revisit what the council can do to support the CBD and support the numbers in the CBD and the retailers that pay their commercial rate and pay their commercial leases in the CBD. And I'd like that to be included in part of the report as well, or something along those lines about how, and with a non-payment aspect, like we're not subsidising, but we are supporting that behaviour to encourage people in the CBD.
I think your Christmas tree's a separate issue.
Well,
But we're talking
why
about,
don't we
can we close the road for activities or not? That's sort of what the basis of the report is around. It's just a clarification.
Yes. Just clarifying, as I understood the resolution, it was focused on issues and options around road closures in the CBD. A bigger piece of work around how we might improve the vibrancy of the centre of town. I don't think we can turn all that around in 4 weeks. So everything would
Okay.
change if that was the
So can that be an
requirement.
addendum or a part two, or how do we progress
Well,
that? Because
well,
I
we'll-
think that's essential and part of it. We've got a lot of vacant stores and stuff.
Yeah, we'll respond to the resolution as passed by council. So if the resolution as moved is that we're looking at issues and options for the road closures in the CBD, that's what the report will focus on. If council required further work on some other aspect, then perhaps that should be subject to a slightly separate conversation, or certainly a separate a separate resolution.
So how
of
do I
council.
progress that then?
I
Mr. Mayor?
think you would wait until the activity briefings,
Okay,
and when we get to CBD, in there, you could raise it.
talk to the economic
Talk
development person at
the
that time.
economic development section of the activity briefings.
Because I think we've moved it without a discussion, so I'd like, but it's interesting we have to move it back with the discussion, is my view.
The Christmas tree, you mean? Yeah, okay, it's a separate subject to today. Yeah. So we've moved and seconded. Any other speakers for or against? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Richard and Jolene. Cool. Next, we're going on to page 3, which is the confirmation of the minutes, and as to whether they are correct or not. And page 3, any alterations or additions? Page 4. Page 5 and 6. So we'd like to move that the minutes of the 16th of October council meeting be taken as read and confirmed. Councillor
I'll
McMillan,
move.
Councillor Todd. Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Next item is number 5, the Methven Community Board, and discussion on whether those minutes are correct or not. And you won't know because, we're receiving them. Receiving those minutes, so we'd like to move that we receive them. Councillor Hooper, Councillor Lovett. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. Any questions out of those reports? Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. I see that the Methven Community Board have granted $2,000 to establish a local, I've just gone past it, I can't find it, market, Methven Arts and Growers Market. How's that going to be? Who was at that meeting? Oh, you do? Yeah, how's that going to move ahead?
At the meeting, Councillor McMillan wasn't, but Tony was, so Tony might like to update.
Thank you, through the chair. So the applicant for the Methven Arts and Growers Market is looking to host a market starting, it was meant to start this past weekend, but it got rained off. They applied to the Methven Community Board discretionary grant. They're looking to hold a dozen markets on a Sunday for summer, essentially, summer and into autumn, ideally with local providers and also some other parties coming from outside the district to host a market. It's on private land, and they've got everything fairly well organised to get that underway.
Can I ask a subsequent question, please, Neil? Is the $2,000 going towards a lease? Or
Councillor Cameron, just speak to.
Is it, where is the $2,000 going to? What's it paying for?
Thank you, through the chair. My apologies, I should have picked up that question sooner. That was around advertising and the promotions.
I think we've put that. So the next item is number 6, which is the 23-24 annual report adoption. And we have the annual report separate document on your screens, if you've got that up. Welcome, Femke, Erin and Tony. Anything further to add to the report? I know we have another recommendation, in addition to the recommendation.
Yes, through the chair, thank you. That's the thing that we would like to add, a second recommendation. And I refer to the printout that was handed out, and that is recommendation 2, stating that Council authorises the Chief Executive to make any minor amendments to the final annual report as a result of Audit New Zealand's request and report these changes to Council.
Councillor, you've got the annual report in front of you, and it's 223 pages. You've a couple of options is page by page, which I'm not suggesting, or go to sections, and we do it in sections. And I'm also thinking, with Councillor Ellis's indulgence, that once we've adopted here today, if we adopt, that we will take the report, audit and risk, and give it a more thorough investigation there where more time allows. But I'm happy to do what needs to be done today for scrutiny. Councillor Cameron.
I just have a question for the Chief Executive. I'm looking at the part-time employees. I just wonder where the extra additional people are employed in the main.
Page number?
Page number it's very early on, page number 22, please.
I'm sorry to, Mr Chair, I don't have a specific answer. They are across the organisation would be the better answer. If that's not accurate or complete enough an answer, Sarah may be able to comment further, but they are, in my view, my estimation is they are scattered across the organisation.
So they were not vacancies that have been filled. They're actual additional full-time equivalent people.
No, not additional full-time equivalent people from the year before, no. So it's the ebb and flow of a 300-person organisation.
That's my question. Yeah, because we were two set. I've just moved on from page 23. But if you go and have a look at it, it's got there, and I don't recall the discussion. That's why I've asked it. There's 201 full-time equivalents employed in 22-23, and 224 full-time equivalents employed in 23-24. So do you think they're hanger-on vacancies from 22-23?
I'm not quite sure what hanger-on vacancy
Well,
means, but
vacancies carried over from the next year that weren't filled in that current year. Like, how come there's a leap of 23 people? Was my question.
yes, I imagine because of the ebb and flow of a 300-strong organisation where people leave and come and go. But Sarah, you may have a more direct answer.
Through the Mayor, yes, the CE is correct in terms of there was definitely, it's a point in time as at the 30th of June, snapshot of who's here and who's not. There were a number of staff that were additional positions. Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, for example, was another one, and there was multiple roles in there that got approved. So where we've got external funding, position counts do go up, but also the funding comes with them. So that's some examples. And also with regards to the part-time employees, it is a trend, I guess, that more people are seeking part-time employment. So library position, for example, when we moved to the new library, there was one full-time role that became vacant. We turned that into 3 part-time positions. So again, headcount goes up, but the FTEs in that scenario of the library remains the same. So it's a combination.
I just have a question, page 26, and it's on other financial statistics. Proportion of rates to total income. Does the total income include borrowings or exclude borrowings? Page 26, under total comprehensive, other financial statistics.
I don't believe it would do because the borrowing goes through the balance sheet.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. And just one other question, probably not for today, but our public debt has increased from 85 million to 130, and this building will be a big part of that, I'm sure. But it is a big jump in borrowing. And not for today, but perhaps when we review this at Audit and Risk, could we have a list of where did our borrowings go to and to which categories, or what did we borrow to do? Not for today, though, of course.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we can do that. Just in reference to that section, there is a note on that page that the public debt's largely due to drinking water and wastewater projects expenditure and the completion of Te Whare Whakatere.
Yeah, which will be the bulk of it, but there'll be other bits and pieces in there too, the odds and sods, which I'd like to, I can't see it through the annual report where it's gone easily, but it's probably a figure that's easily, or figures that are easily obtained from those who put this document together. Councillor Wilson.
It's within the workforce snapshot. It's stressed the chief executive probably in a way. We have
page, Councillor?
Pardon?
You got a page, certain page?
Page number 22.
Yeah,
we have a breakdown of diversity, you could call it, from foreign people and New Zealand people and people from different places and male and female. Do we actively try to balance that out, or do we actively try to employ the best person that we can get for the position?
We focus on best person for the position. We're interested in where our people come from, and so we like to keep the statistics of where they come from for two reasons. One, is this workforce reflecting the general population? And secondly, we try very hard not to have inbuilt biases around our employment. And one way of checking in to see is checking your stats against things like ethnicity. But each individual hire, each individual recruitment is always based on best person for the job.
Just a question, page 35, and it's under water main renewals, and we renewed Ashburton, Hines and Hakatiri. I'm just wondering if we could have added in how many metres of water pipe was renewed. And that does have this between such and such, but the metres would probably be useful as a comparison to giving us percentage of total metres we have. We know what that figure is. So how many metres of water pipe did we actually replace that year? It's gathering that information. Councillor Todd? And
thank you.
obviously you won't have it for today, but for those additions that could go in, perhaps. Councillor Todd?
Thank you. Just on page 23, the head count, this last financial year was 308, last year was 275. I assume last year, did we have more vacancies than we have this year, or are we up to speed staff-wise? Just interested in the growth of employees in the last year.
Through Mr. Chair, I think it's a reflection of Sarah's earlier answer. It'll be a combination of vacancies and a number of roles, perhaps being part-time now that we're full-time, so the head count goes up with 2 or 3 people filling a role that used to only be one person, and we certainly saw that, and I know Sarah's already referred to it, with people making some choices around work, particularly in the library when we moved to this building, but not solely the library by any means. And there'll be a factor in there of all the things that that contribute. So a new activity like the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, which comes with commensurate funding, their new people could have less vacancies, could be jobs being performed by a number of part-timers compared to the year before. So that's just a raw headcount number. Yep.
Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. I'm on page 38 on water. Is that all right? Just you've got all the different water schemes, and I see you've got Methven, but there's no note of Methven Springfield. Should that be included under Methven, or because it would have been joined through the treatment plant by then, I would have thought. I know it's noted down in other pages, just not on that page.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we could include Methven Springfield in brackets next to Methven just to capture that change that happened in that financial year.
Thank you.
I have another question, page 94. Capital expenditure by activity. Public conveniences, we budgeted 172,000, but we spent just over $1 million. Perhaps we could have an explanation of that at our audit and risk report meeting, which lifts the total. It should have been 500,000, but it's 1.7 million. So an explanation on what happened there would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we can certainly provide that information. Probably just something to point out, an anomaly when you're reporting an annual report is you're reporting against an LTP, whereas actually we have done a year 3 annual plan, which would have noted those amendments and changes, but we can pick all that up and bring it to audit and risk as well.
That may clarify it.
Yes, it's a real trick to doing an annual report.
Yep. Further questions, councillors? Councillor Wilson.
It's on page number 62 around roading. We've measured performance. I know our footpaths are in very good condition, obviously, because people find them 99%, but there's still quite lag in our sealed roads as to what we're targeting to what we're getting. So I just thought I'd note that one there, because it's it actually draws into today's conversation later in the meeting about where we could perhaps allocate funds.
Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. Page 85 under forestry. There's an explanation there. We have a large number of different plantation-sized parcels of forestry land throughout the district. Is there a requirement to have the hectare or the numbers of plantations there? That just seems to be a nice little explanation, but it doesn't give you many facts.
Thank you. Through the chair, we aren't required to provide blow-by-blow detail of our forestry stock. We certainly do have that based on the valuation data that sits in the background to that. We could make changes, however, I suggest if we start making a change there, we might need to ripple that throughout the document to provide a fuller context for everything.
And I'm on page 108, capital expenditure by activity again, recreation facilities and services, and might be this. It probably will be the same answer as the first one. The LTP had 93,000, we spent 615, so possibly the same answer as the previous one, but we'll clarify. Thanks. Just flicking through, councillors. Stop if you, or put your light on if you want something.
Can I just ask a general question?
Yep.
Is that okay? We've mentioned the 4 wellbeings throughout the document, and we've heard from central government that we may not have to anymore. Will we, as a council, make a decision on whether we want to include 4 wellbeings in our annual plan? Because it actually makes sense. It kind of relates it all back to those.
Through Mr. Chairman, we're yet to see the legislation and that change, so it's been well signalled. It could be that the government specifically prohibits us from doing that, in which case we wouldn't suggest we do it. If it gave councils choices, then council would have a decision to make as to how you might want to reflect them. But I guess my gut feeling is it's more likely to be quite prescriptive and clear that we're not to take those into account.
Page 127, and net increase as a percentage of income. There's a table there with bar graphs on, but there's only the 20%, so it looks as though it's missing. I know the previous draft we had some graphs there, but this one hasn't.
This is one of the items that's updated in our final version.
Oh, which we haven't got.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it'll update, great. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Just page 112 and its key results for the year, and achieved 14 out of 21 performance measures. Is that is that good, bad, or otherwise? You know, it's.
Thank you. Through the chair, in my time with council, we've never achieved 100% of performance measures. There's always very good reasons why we don't in an area. I wouldn't like to say whether it's good, bad, or otherwise, but it is probably consistent with what we do see across different activities over different time periods.
I think Mr. Chairman would make the point that's in the regulatory services area, which is where there are many matters that we have to consider in that area where the legal and council's perspective may be different to the person making the application or having the exchange with us. So a very hard area to achieve 100%. We always want to do better is the sort of way we think of it.
Councillor Wilson.
Page 130, so with insurance, the last line, I understand the other ones. The total value of council self-insurance fund is 1.2 million. The total value of assets covered by self-insurance fund is 180. Could you give an example of what a self-insurance asset would be? What that fund would cover?
I'd have to look into that. I can't give you that answer.
Flicking through, no doubt. I'm up to 208, so getting near the end. There might be one more question I have. I'm not sure what page it's on. It's reserve contributions, and there's a balance of about 7 million something there now, which keeps increasing. Could we have I couldn't see it in there, but we did spend money on reserve contributions. What did we spend it on? Again, probably for audit and risk.
Yes, we'll bring that to audit and risk.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. Page 150, parking fees, so our... No, scrap that, sorry. Thank you.
I'm back on 105, if that's all right, Mr Mayor. Providing a museum, a modern museum that meets New Zealand museum standards, we're hitting 80%. What are we missing out on? What do we need to do to get to 100?
Thank you. Through the chair, we would have to go and have a yarn to Shireen to get a specific answer for that. So this was a target set through the long-term plan 21-31, and we've since updated it for the LTP 24-34 going forward. And I note that our target was 75% and we hit 80%. Yeah.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. Page 156, so just under the grants and contributions that we've made, I've highlighted a couple. So Methven Community Board, 15,000. I'm guessing that is the money for the Methven pool, but because it gets paid to the Methven Community Board, it's listed as that?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And things like Lushington's for $200, Ashburton A&P Association $70. So that's obviously just purchases that have been made. I'm guessing. Well, we wouldn't have made grants. We wouldn't have given grants for that amount.
Through the chair, unlikely that we've made grants. We're just wondering if there's a coding error that's gone on in the background here. So we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. 224, separate reserves, and the property reserve, the proceeds of any property sales is held and utilised to fund property purchases and development. Do we still do it like that, or do we sell property now and then pay off debt, and if we decide to buy something else, we then re-borrow at that time? Because like the sale of the library was used to pay off debt, it never went into a property reserve account and that sort of thing.
So the resolution at the time would prescribe what's to happen with proceeds. So you're correct, the sale of the library building, the old library building, is to pay off debt on this building, and depending on what the councillors decide on future sales.
So that's a council decision, it's not actually what's written there as such, because that says any property sale goes into the property reserve.
The way, through Mr Mayor, the way I understand that, that's the default. So if council specifically resolves differently, then that will happen. But if they don't specifically resolve, then that's where the proceeds go.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. back on page 157 with the grants and funding. Methven iHub up the top for $32,000. Is that the rental agreement that comes out from the Economic Development or the Visitor Information Fund? Is that right?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, that's correct, and that sits in the district promotion budget as a grant to be paid over to the Mount Hutt Memorial Hall.
Thank you. And just one other question: the North Canterbury Masters Swimming Club for $1,000. Would that be a grant? Seems odd.
Through the chair, we'll have to go and look into that one. I think it's the catch with this area is what we see as grants from what we manage in terms of the applications coming in and council's decision is for the definition for the annual report is broader than that. So it's picking up all of those ones and these others as well, but we'll get the details for you for audit and risk.
Would the grants that the zone committee make, would they go through this schedule?
Through the chair, no, they don't. They sit separate because they're funded out of ECAN.
Councillor Cameron?
Just a question on the reserves again, following on, I think, from Russell. The Stockwater Reserve,
Page? What page?
beg your pardon, 224.
224.
Yeah. And the explanation is the page above, Stockwater Reserve, targeted rates are levied. So that's deficit 1.5 million, is it, as of the end of 23? And then we rate throughout the year, is that right? And then that comes to a zero balance, or how does that actually work? Can you? I just can't follow that.
It certainly didn't come back to zero, by the way I read
Well, yeah,
that page. It
came back to negative 1.8.
It got worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're carrying that debt. We just carry it in the reserves. It just gets worse and
So
worse.
it's a negative balance in the reserve until it is dealt with.
Can I ask a subsequent question? When we do a targeted rate, the $700 minimum, does that go into that reserve?
Yes.
It does.
But remember what goes into that reserve is the budgeted amount of total rates, and so the 700 million minimum is part of that.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, but it's the total number of targeted rates.
For the water, and that Stockwater races, that goes into that reserve.
Yes.
So at the end of 23, so now at the 30th of 6/24, we're 1.8 million.
That's how I read it.
In the red. Well, you would know because it's your books. Yeah. Thank you. Our book.
No further questions on any report? There's a recommendation there, and that the recommendation is that council adopts the 23-24 annual report for the Ashburton District Council. One. Number two is that council authorises the chief executive to make any minor amendments to the final annual report as a result of Audit New Zealand's request and report these changes to council. I'm happy to move. And second, Councillor Mullen. Speaking to the motion, it's a year of a lot of work. We didn't get everything done. We got a lot of things done though. Exactly this building completed. We did reasonably well. And what we didn't get done, we're rolling forward to get done this year. So I think a year well achieved. And thank staff for all the work that's gone into this audit. I know it's immense. You spend a lot of time, probably the last 2 months or probably more, working on it, perhaps day and night, to get it to where it is now. So thank you for that as well. Thank you. Councillor Millen, seconded. You may speak if you wish, or speakers for or against the motion. If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried unanimously. Thank you. Well done. Next item is number 7, 24-25 council funded roading. Welcome, Neil. Mark, anything further to add to your report?
Yes, I'll just a couple of comments. The projects and the work categories we put forward is what the office has considered to be appropriate for the network, as a starting point for council discussion. So this is what we think is the network needs. So let's make the decision. Most of them a big part of what hasn't been funded is what we're putting forward. There's also a couple of operational accounts that have been funded that we just want a bit more, like environmental maintenance and network services maintenance for ice gritting and signage, and it's something we probably need to look at as part of the next annual plan. I'll just review the budgets we've got and talk to NZTA as well about whether they're quite enough for what we got. We thought they were, but it doesn't look like they are. So that's the logic behind the work categories and the projects we put forward. So.
Questions, councillors? Just have one, Mark. What did we spend on ice gritting this winter?
Yeah, it's over 400,000, I think. So, yeah.
What did we spend for grading our roads for a year?
If you didn't want ice grit, yes.
Something similar. Yeah, and in previous years we haven't done much ice gritting because the winter's been kind, but this winter was worse.
It was just more done this year, and it didn't seem like a really cold winter. It was just the way the circumstances were. It's not that much different to what we've done before, but it just seemed a bit higher this year. So yeah, and we'll review the decision making on where the gritting's done as well. We've got set sites, but some were done a bit more than they had been previously, just the way the conditions were.
Yeah, Councillor Milne.
Thank you, through the chair. Just the road safety promotion at $80,000. I think we heard at another meeting that you had applied for up to 900,000 for advertising, etc., for road safety. So is 80,000 going to be enough to get that message out? Are we going to be relying on NZTA, their messaging?
Yeah, we got approved a quarter of what we requested.
Right,
so we'll just have to look at the messaging a different way. Billboards, for example, on the network is something that NZTA and the government said that we're doing it regionally rather than actually councils doing it, so that's something we have to do. But we still want to deliver to Ryder and help fund those other projects, and Community Alcohol Action Plan contribute to that as well. And so the $80,000 allows us to do that, whereas the 74,000 has been approved as just pay for staff and some other advertising promotion we're doing, but just need to review with the funding we've got how we do that promotion of road safety and using social media a bit more and some of the free messaging we can put out there rather than actually spending the money on promotional stuff. So, yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
Mark, I'm looking at page number 24. I'm just trying to understand it. I do understand it, but just to be clear on it, the 24-25 LTP budget, that's not the same as the long-term plan. If I look at the long-term plan, it's not the same numbers in there, is it? Is that correct? Or because obviously the 2.5 million which we're talking about now allocating, the government has underfunded us by 2.5 million elsewhere. So have you taken that out of that number? Because I understand if we're going to make up the difference what we were going to spend to match our long-term plan, but I find it very hard to justify putting extra money in above our long-term plan when I've only just received this 2 days ago, the hard copy of it. It's a bit like the thing hasn't dried and we're already wanting to spend more money and cut others out. We're changing our long-term plan. So is that correct? Like the very first ones, the environmental maintenance, I think you said that it's money we've missed out, but isn't that quite hard to justify spending extra above it when we're cutting out other areas?
Cutting other areas, yeah, the LTP budgets is the total we have for subsidised roading. The NZTA approved some of that to what we requested, but not other areas. So it's bringing the total back up to what's in the LTP budget. So we're looking at, yeah, and they're the gross amounts, so it includes subsidy and council share. We're only looking at the council share to actually add to those. So for work categories, there's always a bit of a juggle between work categories on where the work's needed. Sometimes you have to do a bit more in one area and others. And while they're split into work categories, it's the total that NZTA approved for those activity classes that we can work within that and have unders and overs. So we're just trying to do a balance on where we think the work's needed. Some years you have to do a bit more in some areas than others and make that judgment call. So.
Another question, Mr. Wright. The sealed road resurfacing, which I see there's a lot that's not going to be done. Where does that fit in the long-term plan? So was that under the which one is it? I'll find it. Just a second to find it. The area. It's called local. Local road improvements of the 1.2 we didn't get. Does that fall under that? Because Because you've cut a lot has been put as very low quality. So was that in the long-term plan originally to do all that resurfacing, that resealing, or has it all been just?
Yes, so it's all covered under subsidised rating in the long-term plan. And so it's not improvements, that's renewals in the long-term plan. So that's the funding for reseals and rehabs and the operations activity class and pothole prevention. That's what we got funding for, pretty much what we requested. It's the other projects like improvements, local road improvements and road safety and footpath maintenance where we didn't get the funding that we requested.
So all of the things you've listed at the top, the project list from high to low, were they covered in the plan before or not? Or is there a whole lot of other stuff we've put in there?
The other work categories that make up our total, but looking at the work that's just been done and what hasn't been funded, that's the spread that we're looking at to spend the council share that's been rated and available but not matched with subsidy. So yes, they're covered in the long-term plan. They're not additional to that. They're the existing work categories that we just want to use that money for that hasn't been approved.
Okay, so my last question, we'll move on. There's a lot here about, so we've put 280,000 for new street poles as part of power undergrounding, and also there's another one down a bit further to do with, I think it's replacing concrete street poles. It seems a lot when we're cutting out a lot of resurfacing, which I would have thought resurfacing is where the government's trying to push us, that pothole prevention and that roading, and we're trying to almost put a lot of stuff back into things they've discounted. Is that correct or not?
We're not cutting out any resurfacing. We've got the funding pretty much requested for that. The undergrounding, it coincides with the work EA Network's doing. So when they're undergrounding power, removing the poles that some of the street lights are on, that's when we have to put new street light poles in. So that's an improvement that we've funded previously. That's been in our budgets previously. That's something that we've done every year for the last few years. So that's matching what we've done before. The concrete street light poles is something that has come up following inspection with the new contractor coming in and doing a bit more detailed inspection. They've found a lot of concrete street light poles that are in a condition that they consider need to be replaced. We have to gradually do that as well. So that's additional and something we have to look at in future funding for subsidised roading. And we've discussed with the NZTA and they agree that we need to be doing that work if the condition is that bits of concrete are spalling off and things like that. But we're not cutting back on reseals. We're actually carrying off that program. This funding is an additional to that in some work categories.
Could I make a comment just on the reseals not cutting back? You can't cut back anymore on resealings because you've cut back so much over the past 3 or 4 years. We used to seal 120 odd kilometres a year. I think last year we sealed 52, was it?
Yes, so this term cutting back, we're doing the reseals that our budgets that we've got approved can afford. If we really wanted to put forward and fund the reseals, what we should be doing, say 90 kilometres or 100 kilometres a year, that would be an increase in rates. And as we discussed with doing the land transport program and the funding and rates increases, we didn't want to go to that full amount. So we have what realistically we can afford and what NZTA have approved. Yeah. So we do the work with the budget we've got rather than actually getting the budget for the work we want to do.
We now have the budget because they wouldn't match their half of this 2.9 million. So that brings this why it's here. We could put the whole 2.9 million to reseals because we have the budget already. We don't have to increase rates and get back our reseals to where they should be because of budget cuts from NZTA over previous years. Is that another way of looking at it?
Yes, yes it is. The approach we've taken though is to recommend from your roading team's perspective what the network most needs with this $2.9 million. But as we've previously discussed, we understand that this money is unsubsidised now, sadly, and therefore it is council's discretion to spend it as you see fit. So you can spend this on the roading network in any manner in which you like. What we are suggesting, though, based on the network needs, is this recommendation, but it is council's decision.
Yeah. I think the network need is for resealing because we used to reseal the 100 odd kilometres a year, but we're now not because of budget restraints. If we didn't have budget restraints, we'd be doing 100 kilometres a year because that's what the network needs.
There's many and multiple needs, and there's many and multiple ways of thinking what the network needs. It's about the priorities that in the end council puts on it.
Yeah, the order that we've put them in there, if you look at the one just below that's been highlighted, there's $450,000 for additional resales if you want to put to that. As I say, this is we looked at first on what hasn't been funded or underfunded what we requested, as opposed to what has been approved. But there's a bit additional on those. As I said before, this is a starting point for council to discuss. So there'll be some in my team who will say, yes, we should be spending on resales. They'd agree with you. But it's a bit of a spread across the different work categories, different work we do. So it's a starting point for discussion. I don't disagree with the philosophy of actually spending money on resales or rehabs, because that's what the seal network needs.
If you don't reseal and the seal cracks, it lets the water in, and all of a sudden you've got a pothole. And then it's the preventative maintenance, isn't it?
Absolutely, and if we go back quite a few years, we used to be able to do reseals before there were any cracks. Now we have to wait for some cracks before we justify the reseal because of the funding we've got.
Yeah. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I'm just asking a question of clarification. We've struck our rates, and this is all around the timing of NZTA not being able to align themselves with the rest of the country when everyone's doing their budgets. So we're now rating people for this money, and they're getting a very, very poor return now on what they thought they were going to get, because they're only going to get half as much spent for what they thought they were going to get. This 2.9 million, it's 6% of people's rates. Should we be spending it when we're only getting half the return? And is that possible is really what I'm asking, because we're already now rating for this money. I don't know what the quality around that is.
No, the rates are struck for the year. So we will be collecting the $2.9 million. If we didn't spend it, that money would presumably be available to roll into next year to potentially subsidise something else that you wish to do next year, but it will not impact on this year's rates.
But could next year.
Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. Page 19, I just wanted to dig a wee bit deeper on the polls Richard touched on. The 210K, I've got three questions. So were they poorly made in the first place? The spalling you talk about, is that actually dangerous? And what's the life of a concrete pole?
Well, the first question, poorly made, no, they meet the specification with streetlight poles. Most of the ones that are around they're 30 years old, some are more than that, I think. So I haven't got the exact details, but they're sort of that age. In terms of danger, bits of concrete have fallen off some of them, and that's what's been observed. The risk is someone being underneath it when it happens to fall off. The likelihood is very low. The consequence isn't that great if someone does get hit by a bit of concrete falling off. So that's a discussion we had as a team as well. So they've been inspected and said, well, we should be replacing them this year. Should we replace them last year? They've lasted another year, so will they last another year? So that's why the funding that's there, we haven't got to do at the moment. It's something that we probably should do. And if they've been inspected and they're in a state that bits can fall off them, I don't think it's something we necessarily want to ignore. So we just want to do the work. If we don't do it this year, we can do them next year. And most of them can actually last another year, but we'd like to do them a bit sooner, that's all. There were a couple outside this building actually that have been replaced as part of this, but they were had bits of concrete falling off them, quite big chunks off the top of them. But fortunately, that's when this building has been done and Berrien Square has been upgraded, so we left them alone. So, yeah.
The new and improved ones you put in, how long will they last?
Not sure of the life, but 30, 40, 50 years. Galvanised steel poles, spunlight poles, the preferred option now, but there's also in subdivisions other decorative poles that have a long life. What they really need, rather than actually concrete spalling, is actually a repaint of the painted ones, so they have to powder coat them again. But the galvanised poles, in my preference, are the best ones to have because very little maintenance and they do last a long time.
And they're a lot dearer?
No, they're the best option. They don't look as nice.
So just to follow on from Councillor Hooper, that's a new project. It's not in the budget at the moment.
No, it's an additional maintenance that's been identified in the last couple of months.
Yeah. So that should go to next year. Too late for this year, I think it wasn't identified, unless it's a real health and safety. And how many are there in this condition? Approximately?
A couple of hundred, I think, something like that. In total, that's been inspected. there's some that are seen to be needing to be done sooner. So I can include an activity briefing if you like about the details of it.
You can do it, that'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah. If we weren't having this discussion today because we got funded 100% of our monies, we wouldn't be talking about those street poles at all,
No.
those light poles.
Well, we may have come to council saying it's been identified as something that's come up, and we'd request extra funding for doing it, either from NZTA within our existing funding, or an increase or a cost scope adjustment. So it's something that we probably would come back to council with, something that's been identified after we've already set the budgets.
And normally, under the new regime, NZTA would fund those replacements this year.
It is subsidised work if they approve an increase, or we do something less within our overall budget that's already approved. Yeah.
Councillor Cameron.
So just following on from that, can we go to them now and ask for the subsidy for an increase?
No.
No.
Well, we could ask, but I think I know what the answer is. Yeah.
Well, if they're not prepared to share it. The question I have, please, Mark, is when I look at project list, officers high priority continued, you've got culvert extensions, 100,000 high priority. When I go into this long-term plan, page 101, it's got culvert renewal, 125. Is a culvert extension and a culvert renewal not the same thing?
No, not quite. So renewal and new culverts and things like that. But the culvert extensions is something that we've had in our low cost, low risk projects and before, but it's something that because only there's been zero amount approved, we've included this as totally subsidised or totally funded by council rather than getting any subsidy for it. So we've always done this work before with the subsidy. It's just the fact we're not now. We're saying include it in the unsubsidised work that we're doing.
Okay, sure. And then we had some undergrounding of obviously for EA of the power lines, which we've discussed, haven't we? That I saw somewhere. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lovett.
Just looking at your road rehabilitation, you're pushing out the sealing of the pavements out, it's medium, so that'll be another year or two out, because it won't get done straight away, will it? It'll be another couple of years out in the budget.
It's work that's already in our forward work program. If you decide to fund it this year, we'll do it this year. If not, we'll be doing it next year. So it's already in a forward work program. It's just the ability, if that's where you want to spend the money, we can bring it forward and do it this year.
Because I look at some of these roads listed and, you keep pushing them out and they're back all the time fixing jolly potholes, and some of these roads are collapsing. And what I want to know, the understanding, you come in and you seal a road, and how many years before they get resealed, because it must be a huge amount of years, because at the moment, as Neil said, the Mayor says, you see the cracking and you're starting to see potholes developing, and I'm thinking, should they have been resealed before now?
Well, the answer is probably yes. So for the life of a seal, first coat seal goes down. You should do a second coat to complete the seal within 3 years, and then previously we worked on about a 15-year cycle, so we should be about 90 kilometres a year is what we should be doing. We haven't been funded for that for quite a while. So that's about a 15-year cycle, but depending on what chip size you use and how much bitumen put on, some can last longer than that, 20, 25 years. 20 is not the maximum. Some last a lot less, depending if you put smaller chip on as part of the reseal. So over the life of a seal, a lot of our pavements are 70 years old, so they've actually had quite a few reseals on them. It's just that they've got a bit worn out. The pavement hasn't got the strength in it, so it's moving. So we have been delaying them for a long time. We're behind with our reseals, and therefore you have to do more failures, and there's more rehabs that you have to do as well. But the reseals are something that used to get funded when they're due to be done, sort of a birthday seal. That went away from that when funding was a bit tight, so you had to justify doing the reseal based on the faults that are there, which in my opinion is actually too late. You want to get in before that. It's like waiting for your roof to leak before you replace the iron. You want to do it before it starts leaking. That's the position we're in now. There's always some work that's been delayed that we can't do when we want to do it. Yeah.
So I'm looking at our network, and there's heavier and heavier trucks on, and the roads are just packing up, and you hear the locals say they should have had a seal on them, and because every time it rains you can see the water going underneath, and I'm thinking we're just short on money.
Yeah, exactly right. So at 50 kilometres a year, it's going to take 30 years to go around, which is way outside of leading towards money's going to resealing, nothing else, but, Councillor Wilson.
I'd just like to understand footpaths, because I was told by a local contractor that footpaths, if you don't spend enough on them, they deteriorate, therefore you'll never get them back. It's a bit like maintenance. So I'd like to understand the difference between the maintenance and the improvement, because we've put extra money in. Just, are we maintaining them to a maintenance level, or are we trying to improve them?
Well, there's probably three parts to footpaths. There's maintaining them just like our seal network is the patching, sweeping, cleaning, that sort of thing. Footpaths don't deteriorate through the loading on them because it's pedestrians. It's more ultraviolet light, so the seal gets brittle. So that's the maintenance. I'm keeping them clean, spraying lichen, all that sort of thing. Repairing potholes with them. Or someone puts a trench down and repair those. Then there's the renewal of them. They get to the end of their life when the seal's brittle. You take that seal off, reconstruct it, put a new seal on. So that's a renewal. And then we've got other, under low cost, low risk, that's where we build new footpaths and provide extra connections. So they're the three footpath lots of work that we do.
So in this budget, which I understand the first one, sweeping, that makes perfect sense. Sweeping, that shouldn't be too expensive because you've taken it off. The second one is maintaining. Well, you've got to maintain what you've got. But the third one, I would question whether we should be doing a lot more at the moment when we're struggling to, because I know some of the roads you mentioned about shingling, tar sealing, they're pretty bad. You know what I mean? So they fall into the same category as number two, just maintaining, not improving. So I'm just wondering how much of improvement have we put in here if we have new footpaths?
Not very much, but that's under the low cost, low risk improvements. And last year we spent $900,000 on new footpaths under the Better Off funding that we received. So there's a whole variety of things you can do with footpaths. There's not much difference to the network. The difference is what we requested for a sealed network, our real network, and our roading. We got what we requested. With footpaths, we didn't. We got 34% of what we requested. I think the indication is we're going back to pre-2018. We won't get subsidy for doing footpaths, so it'll all be funded by council in the future. That's what it looks like to me is going to happen. And so we've just got the work here to do what we've got programmed, what we'd like to do it based on the budgets that we requested to still do some of that work, even though it's reduced from what we actually got approved.
Councillor Cameron.
Two questions. First one is from Councillor Ellis. Page 21, rehabilitating Thompson's Track, it's 1,500 metres, it's going to cost 550,000. Rehabilitating Ealing Montalto Road at 1,700 metres, it's going to cost 480,000. Is that because one's further away and more transportation costs? Or
Thompson's Track is sealed to a wider width than Ealing Montalto.
Okay, so there might be more understanding if there's a volume component to that, so we understood, you know. My question relates to just a general sort of philosophical question. If we spend money on low risk or low priority, which the NZTA, which are an agent for the government, I suppose, proxy, have said we're not going to support that. How will they view it if we support it ourselves? Will they see that as this just is a wealthy district and they can continue to pay an extra part of that themselves? Will it be viewed as we're not listening to them and they don't want us to spend money on that? Like, how will it be viewed, or have I overthought it?
No, I don't think Wakatahi will have any strong view whatsoever, because in the end we're spending unsubsidised money on the priorities that this district assesses via the councillors. So they're not going to have a particular view. They'll be very focused on excellent delivery of the subsidised program, not the unsubsidised.
Okay, so they won't say you're spending $3 million, because we've already put aside $500,000, haven't we, on the rural roads and the replacing some of the shingles. So they won't say you're spending $3 million unsub this year, or 3 point whatever. You can afford to do that every year.
Well, no, it doesn't work that way. What they do is they're saying, here's the pot of money, and here are the central priorities, and what else you need for your network is up to you. But here's the priorities that we're going to invest the subsidised money on. So they won't have a view as to how much or how little or what else is done. Yeah,
agree. Just low cost, low risk improvements across the country. Councils are in the same position as us. It's not Ashburton that they've said, oh, you can afford it, so that we're not going to need money for it. It's pretty much across the country, unless there's projects that really fit within resilience or are already underway that they've approved. Most councils have got 0% of their low cost, low risk improvement funding, and that is to fund the increase across the country in pothole prevention. So that's where that money is basically being used. It's increased there, but it's been decreased for those improvements that we did around the country for the next 3 years.
Overall, the contribution that the government or NZTA have put in towards roading has increased significantly, hasn't it?
Across the country, that is true.
Yeah, across the country it's true. And state highways included in that as well. But it's also those improvements that haven't been the increases there. In fact, as I say, we've got 0% improvement. Most rural local authorities are exactly the same.
If you didn't spend 80,000 on the road safety, what misses out? Because there's still funding in there for road safety of 170,000.
Well, we may not be able to contribute to the community alcohol action plan or to RIDA, to those events that we help fund. Community alcohol action plan is something like 20,000 a year that we help to fund that program.
And others do it.
Yeah.
Others do it.
Yeah, we contribute towards it. Yeah.
So is it the end of the world if we don't do that? We're still doing road safety because the government's sending a signal. They've sent a signal, fix your potholes, and we're not listening by doing just a lot of these recommendations.
I think, Mr. Mayor, we're definitely listening. The government has sent that clear signal, and they are simply not funding an array of work in the roading area that used to be funded. And they have reprioritised money into those areas that are now their priorities through the GPS. This money in some parts has previously been spent on the network, and we can reprioritise it in any manner that council believes is appropriate. But some other parts of the network, some other parts of the roading program that have previously been funded simply won't be. And it's about priorities. Everyone acknowledges there's insufficient money to do everything. And so it is about priorities, and there will be consequences for the decisions taken. And it'll either be maintenance of some part of the network will be less than desirable and we'll have to wear that, or it'll be a program that some parts of the community might regard as really important, won't get funding and will fold. All of it is absolutely consequential on the funding decisions you make. And all we've tried to do here is spread the money that we had hoped would be subsidised and would go twice as far. We've tried to recommend to you how it might be spent on the basis of the needs of the network as our roading team sees it. But in the end, you can spend this money any way you like, and it's a little bit hard for staff to try and debate with you what those priorities should be. We've simply made a call as to what we think the network need is, and here it is. And if that's not how councillors feel about it, and you want to reprioritise it and take something out of one thing and spend it on something else, then that's absolutely your call. We've just tried to reflect what we think half the money could be spent on if you took a network view, but we can't keep kind of justifying each individual item over and over. This is what we think. Now you get to decide.
And I'll just make one. This is for this financial year, which we're a third of the way through now. So I'm sure we're going to debate this for 25, 26 and 26, 27 because our funding for 3 years has been approved. We will have to return to this again in the next annual plan to see where we actually want to spend our money as well.
One of the ironies of this that occurs to me is we're very critical of the timing of NZTA's confirming the National Land Transport Plan because it should ideally be prior to council making its own funding decisions. But it does occur to me that if the decision not to fund low cost, low risk to this extent had been made a year ago, would this council have allocated $2.9 million in unsubsidised money, faced the community with an 11% rate increase, and then had the debate about how you were going to spend it? One of the ironies is this money exists because we assumed we were going to get some subsidy, and then didn't, and have already, by sheer timeliness, had to rate for it, and the money has become available. But if we'd known that a year ago, we may not have been having this debate at all. May just have had a lower rate increase.
Good question. We'll never know the answer. There's one question, page 19. Line markings, additional funding for line marking to ensure all pavement markings completed. That's new, is it?
What we do the marking anyway. It's just there's been a bit more done this year, and it's just cost a bit more with the cost escalations in the contract than what we had budgeted for. So it is an extra this year, and there's been a complete remark done of the network. Yeah.
What do we spend on marking the network every year now?
Yeah, we do.
How much do we spend?
I haven't got that number off the top of my head. That's the amount we've got for this year, which has been done now, and it just means that some other work may not get done as a result.
Do you tender that work?
It's part of the maintenance contract.
It's gone up 300,000.
No, the amount of work is more than what we've done previously, so it's been a complete remark of the whole network this year. So.
Councillor Mellon.
Thank you. Have we had years in the past where we've put the footpath renewal or the maintenance on hold? I seem to recall, I know we did that up in Methven for some time where we just did not build any new footpaths. I'm wondering if that would be worthwhile.
Not in my time here. There's the differentiate between maintaining or renewing what we've already got and building new footpaths.
Yep.
So, yeah, the new footpaths are done under a low cost, low risk, or funded as a project. It's separate from that, whereas the maintenance renewal is something that's under our subsidised roading. Yeah.
Just on that 300,000 for line marking, those lines have already been marked. They're done.
Yes, so we're likely to have an overspend in that work category. So that's to enable the work to continue on other traffic services or network services maintenance going out over there, like signs and things like that, to able to do it. We're going to do an overspend there. If we don't put the money to this, then we'll have to sort of look at cutting back on doing some other work during the year. Yeah.
The roading reference group is here for this purpose, to discuss and help prioritise pressing issues around the community with regards to the roading network. Will some of these questions be coming to the roading network, or are we going to make these decisions based on our extreme knowledge of the network and what's required and the undergrounding of the wires and the painting of the lines on the road? Or will we be discussing this with the roading network? Like, what is the timing for this decision?
Through Mr. Mayor, it's up to you. So if council defers it or redirects it to a different forum, then that's what we'll do. If you make a decision how it'll be spent, then we would probably advise that forum rather than ask their perspective.
Yeah, okay, I will wait till there's an appropriate time to discuss that now.
We've had this discussion before. If we wait, we'll lose the year.
Well, how long do we need to wait for? Like, we have some people's views that we don't need the lines, and then we do need the lines, and do we need all this ice gritting because that's a projected anticipation of the next winter? Like, well, do we not need the ice? You know, I just wonder if we got some experts that actually use the road to view on it, we may have a clearer indication of what. I understand, I'm not trying to be rude about you, Mark, I understand you use the roads, but external to us that have no internal sort of conflict, they may give some feedback on particular areas or where the money could be prioritised. Just a view.
And would the decision be any different?
I don't know, it's just
Probably
a view.
Not.
I'm just giving a view.
Probably not. I think we need to proceed today with the what we're doing. Councillor Wilson.
There was a comment made before by the Chief Executive around if we had known we weren't going to get this money, we may not have rated for it. And I completely disagree with that, because I feel that if you look at and I brought it up and we talked about it, the annual report, the footpaths at 99% and the roading at 30%, that's why I'm here, to try and make the roads better. And if it takes a bit of unsubsidised money to do it, well, we have to do that. That's just a part of it. And that's where I sort of took the long-term plan. We'd said we were going to spend X amount of money. And once it's been subsidised and unsubsidised, it's there to be spent. So you can't to take it out and say, oh, now we can do what we like with it. No, we'd almost said we were going to spend it. And now all we're talking about is the divvying up of actually not the extra 2.5, it's where we're going to take the 2.5 off that we haven't got from the government. So I think we're attacking it from the wrong direction. And I felt that some of the things we're putting in here, and it's a budgeting thing, what we perhaps talked about, the road marking. I understand you've got to spend money at the start and the end, so you have to work out where it's going to be spent. And that's your department. But the making a decision around not spending and spending on maybe roading as opposed to footpaths, it's a hard one for us to make, but I think we need to make that decision and move on. But the money is there to be spent. It's not a case of that's not an option.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave that impression. I was just reflecting on the timing and the fact that Council seldom puts $2.9 million in its budget for unsubsidised roading of its own volition. We've ended up with this because of the timing, but it has created the issue of how do we then spend it. Yeah.
If you added all these figures up in these tables here, Mark, it comes to 2.9 million-ish, does it?
Yes, it does, and I've included the $500,000 for maintenance metalling on unsealed roads, which was already in the budget. So I added that just so it was obvious that it was there. So it's 2.458, I think, plus the $500,000.
Councillor Brown, Councillor Todd, then I've got a suggestion.
Thank you. So, Mark, you went through all the way from top to bottom, and you come up with a list what you think is the best, part with what you can do with the money. So I know not everything gets everything, but at least we're doing something all over the whole district. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, not me personally, but the team who looked at the network. This is work, as Hamish said previously. If we had the funding approved and we had the $5 million, we wouldn't be having this debate and would actually be doing this work anyway under that approved funding. We're just going to be doing half as much, and this is where we said we would like to do it based on what's happening this year. So, yeah.
Great. That's what I want to hear. Thank you.
Tony?
I think, Mr Mayor, just on page 14, just a recommendation, is road safety promotion, I've always wondered, is that part of our role? I can understand, is it? Go no further. Like everything else I agree with, but I've always wondered with the road safety, I hear the ads on the radio, etc. Then I think, is it a government thing, road safety, or is it a local government thing?
Well, it's actually both. Is the simple answer. Certainly, the government spends a lot of money on road safety as well, and no council could afford to have national advertising campaigns on TV1 at 6 o'clock. But at a more granular level, then road safety has always been a territorial authority function as part of managing the network.
And it's done regionally as well. So we do work with, it's not just Ashburton, we work with Timaru and Mackenzie, Waimate and Waitaki as well. So just on, with billboards previously, we had a combined contract for doing those previously, which we don't have now because we're not doing billboards, but road safety promotion is coordinated between regionally because you want to do similar messages and similar local authorities. So it's regional as well as local.
I was going to suggest, before I go to Councillor Wilson, that another line goes in above A under the recommendation, and is that we complete another 50 kilometres of road seal at 45,000 a kilometre. What's we're told here it costs, which is about 2.2, because we need to reseal those roads to prevent the water getting in. We've been doing 50 kilometres a year for some years. Going to be 30 kilometres to go around. The roads are not going to last that time. I believe we need to reseal first another 50 kilometres a year to get us back to where we used to be, and then whatever monies are left is in A, B and C till it runs out. We're still in question time.
This was a question. No, that's right. Neil said don't say anything about it. Just making it, adding that extra work, for reseals to be carried out, there needs to be pre-reseal work done, so repairs, dig-outs, things like that. So if we decide to do that, it'll be additional to the current program which they're working on, and The reseal itself can be done, it can be added to a contract, it's just getting that pre-reseal work done in time to get it before the end of the summer. It probably can, depending on the extent of it, but it's actually just quite a wee increase, that's all. So, yeah.
Yep, Councillor Wilson.
Can you just clarify, so the total list of numbers, you know, right down from top to low adds up to about 7 million, is that right? It's more than 5 million, isn't it? Because if I understand it, we've got 5 million of less funding, so I'm just interested to understand that, so the 2.5 million that we're trying to allocate, you've got put up an optionality of 7 million, is that right? Yeah.
As you said before, it's 2.9 million on those tables.
Yeah, but the optionality of what we could spend it on, don't think of what we have long-term planned on, what we could spend it on, and your options of A, B and C, or high, medium and low. If we had unlimited money, you've potentially we could spend up to 7 million, is that right?
if we did all of them. If we did all of them, yeah.
All of them, yeah. So I'm just very interested to understand which ones is extra above what we, you know, where's the extra 2 million of optionality? Why wasn't it in the long-term plan as an option, sort of to push that forward? It's because we couldn't afford it, was it?
I'm not.
Oh, sorry. Well, it goes to what the Mayor's talking about, putting more resealing in. So if we look at the very last, probably the last 3 things on there are just about resealing, resurfacing, and they're the big numbers. And those big numbers, have they been put in there as part of what we were talking about now, or are they sort of extra wants that we could have put in?
They are extra in options to increase our existing approved budgets rather than what hasn't been approved with subsidy. So if you chose to do no low cost, low risk improvements, so we requested 1.6 for low cost, low risk improvements, we've got 1.1, we've got 0 approved. You could put all that money into something else if you want it to be additional to what we've got approved. That means you're doing nothing of what low cost, low risk that we requested in the first place, that we had programmed. So we'll take all those projects out. Yeah. It's all right.
All clear? Yeah, I think the questions are all done. I'll test. I move that we reseal another 50 kilometres is the first priority. And then what's left goes into A, B and C, D down until it runs out. Seconder?
I will gladly second that, because I really do think we need to be resealing.
Moved and seconded.
I'm sorry, but I'm not clear on what part of this you're retaining and what part you're taking out. Can you please read it from the
The recommendation, Council spends the budgeted share of the reduced subsidised budget 2.45 on the following work categories. A will become 50 kilometres of resealing. And then the letters will change until the 2.5 is used up, 2.45 is used up.
Can I just ask a point of clarification on that motion? But the current, which is already in the long-term plan, the current 15 million or whatever has been spent as was intended. This is
subsidised program.
Yes,
it continues to be invested as it was always intended. This is additional non-subsidised money.
Move the Mayor, second, and Councillor Lovett. Speakers for or against? I'll speak for. Well, speaking to the motion, I think that we need to reseal these roads. They are way short of where they should be because of budget constraints. And if we don't reseal them, they will crack as they are, and potholes will develop as they are. We need to get ahead of the game, as we used to be. We used to seal over 100 kilometres a year, and now we're down to 50. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I'm happy with that aspect of it, but I think the list that we've got in front of us working the way down, I don't know if that has been put in order of priorities, because when you look at the other list that has them listed road safeties at the top. So I think, yes, put in your 50K, but the other A, B, C, D, etc. can be looked at, can be reviewed. I don't think they need to be done in that particular order.
Clarification.
Just a clarification. I'm not sure what the price of the reseals will be once we tender that work, and I'm not sure what the extent of the sealing preparation requirements are. But I did hear someone say $45,000 a kilometre. If that is the price, then 50 kilometres is $2.25 million. If there is some preparation work required in order to be able to spend that money, then I suggest that A to H aren't going to get any money, and you're not going to have to worry about what priority order you want to put them in. You're essentially investing the 2.4 million in resales.
Correct. Yeah. We know what the price is because it's already tendered. They've started the work already. The 2-year tender. They've started resales now. Speakers for or against, Councillor Wilson.
I speak for the motion because I think we have to realise that we're not, like environmental maintenance, we're not cutting it out 100%. There's already money. Some of these categories actually have money set aside in them already. So it's not like we're taking them away 100%. We're just talking about extra funding, and it'd be great to compare that to the year before. So it's a case of, are we reducing funding or are we maintaining funding? Because this year's budget, we actually pushed it ahead. We tried to put a lot more money in, and the government didn't come to the party quite as much. So maybe we just have to do what the Mayor suggests and move forward with one aspect of it, which is resealing.
Councillor Cameron?
The motion came very quickly. My question, which I don't know, but do we have capacity to do that? Is it a reasonable motion? Like, is there people to be able to do that? And I'm asking you, Neil, because there's no one else to answer.
Yeah, well, Mark,
You're
to
saying money
comment on that,
talks and
there may be some pre-seal work to be done, as they've just completed the pre-seal work now because they started sealing, and it'll be towards the end of the season before it's done. There's capacity there, and our ACL have got the contract for that. They've started already. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I speak against the motion. I like the intent of it, but what I don't know from this report is the impact of not doing some of these other high priority things, and the impact that's going to have on our roading network and various things. If we've got dangerous power poles out there with lumps of concrete falling off them we can't replace, or EA networks are putting new lines in and we can't put new lampposts at the same time, I just need to understand the consequences of what this is. So as it stands right now, I would be voting against it.
Councillor Brown?
I fought against it for the same reasons. The whole roading area is underfunded, going for only 50Ks because, yeah, the whole thing is underfunded, so we have to use it for the whole area. That's my point.
Page 24 is the budget. It shows there's monies there already for some of those things you talk about. There's just not as much not as much subsidised monies there. Still monies there. Councillor Todd.
I'm just guided really by the biggest comments that we get in surveys, and the biggest criticism is from our ratepayers is to fix the roads. So on that point alone, I'm be voting in favour of the motion.
Councillor Cameron.
I vote for a modified motion. I think the biggest criticism is indeed the potholes, but also we get criticised for blind spots. We get criticised for not grading. We criticised for vegetation covering signs. So I would like to modify the motion, if I may. Is this an appropriate time to do that?
You'll be making an amendment to it.
Make an amendment that we spend 75% to 80%, or make it 80% of the 2+ million on roading renewals, and keep the rest for urgent things as and when they come up. So we're not going in the hole every time something comes up, you know, further, aka stop water races, then we need to. That would be.
You'll have to make the motion, the amendment clearer to Philip.
I think 80% of the 2.25 or 95? $2.5 million is spent on roading and renewals as per the mayor's reseals, beg your pardon. And the other 20% is kept aside, if you like, for emergency safety or other things that crop up as and when.
I see, got the intent of the motion. Is there a second of the amendment? Is there a second of that? It lapses through the lack of a seconder. We're back to the original motion. Speakers for or against? Councillor Hooper.
I was going to speak for, 2 years ago we all had it as part of our campaigns, so I want to make a difference.
No further speakers for or against, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? 1, 2, 3. Carried. Thank you. Good. Decision made. Recorded against, Councillor Cameron. Next item, number 8, water service delivery plea. Tony, anything further to add to the report?
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor, thank you. Happy to take questions.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Hooper.
At a very tiring conference recently, I felt that there was a steer towards a shared council model and was wondering whether we should revisit our options.
Not a question for the staff, I don't think. We can re-energise that if that is council's will.
Oh yeah, it wasn't directed at the staff. Wrong place.
Just ask you a question, Councillor Hooper. What new information did you hear that you would want to do that? If you have to go off, Richard.
Oh, sorry.
No, it wasn't so. It was just I remember turning to Russell or Tony a couple of times. I felt that there was just a general steer in that direction that a shared council option would be better. So, yeah.
The only council that would perhaps want us would be to the south. And I think they're a fair way through their process already. If we came in now, they would probably close the door and say it's too late. To the north, they don't want us. Councillor Ellis.
Just maybe to help with your question, what new information? The one thing I did learn is if you do a joint CCO, your assets are ring fenced. So like if Ashburton puts in $100 million worth of assets, they're ring fenced and that's our value of the contribution, and then the finance is ring fenced to us as well under the CCO. So if we need to charge 50 cents a litre for our water and Timaru had to charge $1 for theirs and Waimate 20 cents for theirs, that's all done separately. So everything's ring fenced, even though it goes into the one CCO, which was new information that I hadn't heard before, to be fair.
Mr. Mayor, all the conversations I've heard suggest that anything is possible. And so that may be one version of a multi-council CCO, but I wouldn't have thought it had to be done that way, because the multi-council might see there to be benefit in aggregating assets, might see benefit in aggregating pricing decisions, and over time the administrative burden of one CCO managing water assets in a completely separate way for historical communities may not prove to be the most efficient way to approach it. So without having heard what you heard, I've not myself heard or read anything that says you would have to do it that way. But it's you could potentially do it that way. I think one of the issues that we've always, as part of the reform, both the previous governments and even this reform is the question of price, and the price harmonisation has always been a thorny issue, and at some point that issue will be grappled with by the entity that's managing the water, perhaps rather more than the councils that are owning the assets and owning the entity. And initially there may well be structures put in place to give people the comfort of existing arrangements, but over time I'm sure there will be many arguments as to why that is not the most effective or efficient way to continue to deliver services, and that would have impact on different parts of the new entity differently.
And if you did go down that model, there would be 4 councils participating, because of 3 to the south of us. We would probably have 2 members on the board who would be looking after Ashburton's interests out of probably 8 members, 2 on each. Where if that in-house or the Mid-Canterbury model, we would have 6, 7, whatever we decide would be on the board looking after Mid-Canterbury's interests, rather than 2 and looking after south of us interests as well. There's this beside. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Through the chair, we had very clear feedback from the community when we were looking at Three Waters legislation, that they wanted water kept local. So local water done well is a good initiative. And I think the water service delivery plan, obviously this is how you're investigating which is the best way to deliver this plan. Is the stormwater legislation up to the same level as the other legislation? How will you sort of think about the costings if we don't know, like we know about drinking water standards, we know a little bit about what our exposure is in the wastewater. We're a little bit hazy about the stormwater. How are we going to sort of put that into a plan and sort of guess, if you like, what that costing will be?
Stormwater is far and away the 3rd smallest water in our case. So while there are some issues when we think about stormwater and what's the best way to manage it, the truth is the reticulated stormwater network in this district is relatively small and relatively straightforward. How best it should be treated is still an open question. Whether it should go to an entity, whether it should be kept in-house, how in particular should stormwater be managed in a rural context where there's no reticulated network. So those things are live issues and not yet resolved, and we're not in a position to give you advice on that yet. But in terms of the complexity of the network and in terms of the cost involved in meeting compliance standards, it is far and away the smallest.
The smallest, yeah. I think there's been a lot of work done locally on our drinking water and on our wastewater, and also to a certain extent on our stormwater. So I think that you're possibly in a good place, Tony, and agree with me if I'm wrong, disagree with me if I'm wrong, to undertake this work now to get a sort of a steer as to which is the best way to approach our water service delivery plan.
Through the chair, yes, we have to, and so we have to work with the information that we've got, but we are feeling confident with the information that we've got from the assets team.
Councillor Wilson.
Can you elaborate on this? Is about the governance of the water. It's not about the man putting the pipes together. It's not about the tendering. It's about none of that. It's about the governance of the financing and how it's run, because that's what it's about. And since it's governance, the councillors need to have as much input and be very clear if we make the decision, because that's been another criticism of the government, that the staff have been ruling the rest, not the governors. So how will you ensure that we as the governors get ample input to come up with the decision, and it's free and open so everybody in the public can see that our decision making was right and we asked the right questions, we just didn't stumble our way to an answer?
Through Mr Mayor, we will give you all the information that we think you need, and if that is not sufficient, we would rely on you telling us that you need more. But we completely respect whose decision this is. It's all about the council making a decision for the way in which water is delivered to the community for the foreseeable future. That is clearly council's decision. You need to, there's a requirement to consult the community, so you'll get community feedback on the specifics of whatever proposal you come up with. And if there is insufficient information at any point in that process, then you will tell us, and we'll deliver what it is that you need.
Councillor Cameron, question?
No, I'm turning that on.
A recommendation there. Someone like to move? Councillor McMillan,
Yeah, I'll move both of those recommendations.
both, and Councillor Brown, taken together. Seconded. Thank you, Tony. Debate. Councillor Ellis.
Just once again at conference last week, there was something that DIA sent out that every council was supposed to have filled in. I just wondered, sorry, I should have asked that while Tony was there.
Yeah, I have written it down. It's a financial modelling something.
It was a template the DIA had sent out. And
Around financial modelling. I've written it down and a question for you.
We've been dealing with DIA for nearly 5 years on water reform, and there is certainly a financial template, and we have been looking to complete the base data for our water service deliveries in the format that makes sense, and we're sense checking that data and the way it's presented with some external support, particularly now that Leanne has finished here. So we are working through all that information that with the DIA. We've had many Teams calls with DIA officials on the shape of this reform. We've met with them personally on any number of occasions. So I'm pretty confident that any information that they need or any assistance that they are providing to councils in general is also being provided here.
Speakers for or against? Councillor Lovett.
I totally agree with this recommendation we've got sitting here, and it's because our district has told us to keep it local, and we have done a lot of work in this space already, and I'm really confident that we'll get it right for our district going through this process.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Yes, I think we need to keep moving with this. And as Councillor Lovett said, we did hear from the community when we did the survey around the 4 entities, and I think we got a good steer in that direction, and I think we just need to move forward and start progressing and work out our water services plan.
That was the right of reply. You can put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Councillors, now moving on to welcome to new and long-serving staff. Katie is here somewhere. There. Katie, the floor is yours.
Right, good afternoon. I am very pleased today to start with 3 new starters to ADC. First of all, we have Brad Thompson. Stand up, Brad. He's in the back. He has joined us as our new district planning manager. We also have Mohammed Abuzid. Do you want to stand up, Mohammed? Here you go. He has joined us as our new GIS team leader, and he's covering Hannah's parental leave. And finally, for new starters, we have Tracy Clark, and Tracy has joined the customer service team downstairs. This week, we also have 5 staff being recognised for 10 years service with ADC. First of all, we have Marianne Cowan, who's our Senior Museum Curator at AAGM. Stand up, Marianne. You can head up to the front. There should be an order, Hamish. So Marianne is a highly valued and important member of the AAGM team. During her time, she has curated a large number and variety of exhibitions, and as such, the important contribution she has made to sharing local collections and stories with our community in Hakateri Ashburton and fostering interest in our district's history. On behalf of Shireen and the team, we want to take the opportunity to thank you for your contribution to AAGM and the district. Now we will move to our EA Network Centre staff, and we'll start with Ange Reid, who is our Aqua instructor and also been recognised for 10 years service. Ange has been an important part of the community, devoting her time to delivering quality aquascience classes amongst other services. Her passion is undoubtable. building a rapport with the many hundreds of attendees to her classes, as well as the many tamariki she has taught during her time as a Learn to Swim instructor, and continues to deliver her vibrant equine classes 3 mornings a week, and we look forward to many more years of aquatic fun to kick off the day. Thanks, Ange. Next up, we have Mal Periton, who is also an aqua instructor with 10 years service. So Mal has taught hundreds, apparently, Mal, of Aquasize classes over the years and is well known for being the captain of the Aquaboards program. Mal has moonlighted as a personal trainer and enjoyed building relationships after relationship in her unique, passionate way. Another of the amazing team who have held many roles across the facility, Mal has been pivotal to the ongoing success and engagement in the Aquasize program, with a passion with supporting new instructors in their journey. And next up we have Bev Stevens, our Learn to Swim instructor. Despite this award recognising Bev's 10 years with Council, her history with swim education goes much deeper into the history of the community. For over 35 years, possibly before the Ashburton District Council even existed, Bev has been helping the tamariki in our community learn to swim and be safe around the water. Bev regularly has children of previous students coming through her classes and continues to be a much loved instructor, delivering water safety skills to hundreds of children every week. And finally, we have Richard Wood, our Sport and Recreation Manager. Richard started at ADC on the 13th of October 2014, about 6 months before we opened the EA Network Centre to the public. With a strong background in gyms and fitness, Rich was made the aquatics manager with the assistant manager with the aquatic portfolio to round out his knowledge and skills. Rich initially had 3 aquatic supervisors reporting to him, and he was thrown in the deep end, not literally, arranging lifeguard training programs, water testing, roster challenges and recruitment. During his time, Rich has worked closely with Steve Prescott, a career professional swimmer and sport facility manager. His weaknesses were definitely Richard's strengths, which provided Rich the opportunity to get in the thick of the facility budget in all technology projects. While the duties within Richard's role have changed over the time at EA, his enthusiasm and endless supply of improvement ideas, or can we do this questions, have never wavered. Rich and his current team continue to exceed previous visitation records and a new facility record of 7,071 people entering EA Network Centre on a day. Although the larger EA Network Centre capital projects didn't survive the 2024 to 34 LTP, please be aware the district's desires for a mini golf course now rest on your shoulders. That aside, congratulations on your achievement and professional growth over the last 10 years, and long may it continue.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you to the staff here today, the new starts. May your time here be enjoyable and productive, the time you're with us, and the long-serving staff, well done. There's collectively 50 years of service there, so which is great. And wish you, we've got one more item to go before afternoon tea, and hope you can stay and have a cup of tea with us and have a chat informally. So good. Next item is William Brown. Is William Brown here? 3:15. 20 minutes. Shall we do another item of business? Have a cup of tea with us. Okay, yep. We'll do that. We'll break now for a cup of tea. 3 o'clock. Thank you. All of them welcome to join us. Welcome back, everybody, after the afternoon tea break. And next up, we've got William Brown, who's been on the Outward Bound experience. And William is here today to tell us about that experience on Outward Bound with the support of the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs scheme. William was identified as an ideal person to participate in Outward Bound, where he'd have the chance to learn about himself and focus on his goal to have full-time employment at the end of the year. William also supported by his school and his Pathways teacher, Fiona Ward. We understand you enjoyed your time at Anakiwa, and we now look forward to hearing from you, William. So push that button on the right-hand side and tell us what you got up to.
Kia ora. Yes, no, I went on the Outward Bound course. I got a text in October from the Mayor's Task Force asking if I would like to attend this course, and I had a look over it at first and I was nervous, and I read about it, looked over it, had a talk to my mum first, of course, and said yes, and I was quite excited. I couldn't have done it without the Mayor's Task Force's help. They prepared me to go on to this course, and where it kind of started was at Picton. So I took the bus up to, from Christchurch to Picton, where I got on a boat with 112 strangers with 2 instructors from the course that took us to the place called Anakiwa, where Outward Bound was held. And 2 of us, myself and one other female, had to speak in front of the 110 strangers and the people greeting us onto the Anakiwa, the Outward Bound course. They did a thing similar to how you walk onto a marae, if you've ever been on a marae. They did a very similar thing. They greeted us with a haka, a drink, and some food, which was quite nice. I led 2 of the songs, Tūtera Mana Iwi and the National Anthem. I personally don't like public speaking, so it was quite a step out of my comfort zone, especially at the start, not knowing anyone. And that was kind of just how the first day went, was getting there and getting in your group. I think it was 10 people in each group, 10 to 12 people in each group. We kind of went to our bunks, we greeted each other, got to know each other a bit, and had dinner together. We sat in a mess. It was quite formal, so you weren't allowed shoes or headdress or anything like that. And we opened it in song and prayer, which was quite nice. And that was kind of like how day 1 went. It was all the icebreakers. That's my team on the boat, on the sea skit, which was day 3. Day 2 was also just another day of team building, getting to know each other and finding out our strengths and weaknesses, So, because we were all from different places, from the North Island to the South Island, some people working on farms, some not doing much at all. Yeah, and it was interesting. It was quite nice. It was the most challenging part about it. Was to use each other's strengths and weaknesses and kind of bounce off each other to help each other back and forwards, if you understand. Yeah. And that I've got a wee video of kind of how I don't would play. Is there any sound? Oh, no. It's kind of during this video was between the sea skip and the tramping skip, which we did the sea skip first, where we stayed over in the boats, which was quite nice. Especially where they put us, where we slept, there was luminescent water, where kind of you just like drop something in there, the whole water would just turn blue and it would sparkle. It was quite cool, especially during the night time under the stars. And yeah, fitting, it was 12 of us on a boat. It was a challenge. Especially for how small the boats are. Like we managed. We managed. Yeah. And then from there, from rowing and sailing, we ended up tramping. Straight after, we had our bags packed all before this, ready to go. I helped everyone pack their bags because I had tramping experience to how you fit the packs in a bit better, make it a bit lighter for everyone, which was, yeah, it was good to share that knowledge on, and yeah. And during the tramp, on the first day, it was quite intense because it was like no other tramp I had ever done before. I do quite a bit of tramping, but this was it was new. You were 12 strangers, all different fitness levels, all different mentality levels, and we kind of all had to kind of push each other because the hill we climbed, it was long, and the bags we were carrying were quite heavy. And it was nice to kind of have that group to push you on and go forward together. Yeah. So I was sailing. And that was the first day of tramping. The second day wasn't so bad because it was all downhill back to Anakiwa. One of the people that we did Outward Bound from. Oh, no. Oh, that's our group there. One of the people from our group made this video for me to come present to you guys, which is quite nice of them. But yeah, no, that's my group there that I went on. There's me. And yeah, it's quite nice. Some views from the tramp. Funny story about this photo here. So on our way down from the tramp, it was quite slippery because it just rained like that night. And on our way down, we were told to watch our step, as we all do. Jake here, one of my campmates, he fell. He ended up taking 2 trees out with him, which was quite. Yeah, we wish we had it on video, but no, we got a photo of him standing next to the tree. There's one that's going along there. I think there's one behind him, and he was uninjured surprisingly. But yeah, it's a unit. It's like 2 trees on the way down. Yeah, and after we got back from the tramp, we sat in front of a fire. Sat around the fire, and we got given badges for completing the course on Outward Bound, and we all shared. They came out with hot chocolate and some marshmallows for us, which was quite nice. Yeah. That's the boat. That's the boat we had to sleep on. The cutters. Yeah, it was an experience that I will remember. That was the sunset, I think. No, that was the sunrise after the morning of sleeping on the cutters. And that was the sunset, I believe, the night before. Yeah, there's our team. Again, it's one of our instructors. Billy is Nick. Remember his name? I don't. I talk to these two the most. We called him Momo. I can't remember why we called him Momo, but yes, he was fun. He was kind of the class clown of the group. He made all of us laugh. Even when we were all struggling, he still found the light to bring us up. And then there's Jack. We called him Mr. Smiley because he was always smiling. Oh, sorry, Jake. And then that's Jack. And then there's Jake in the back that took out the 2 trees. Yeah, I can't remember all the girls' name though. And then there's me. I put my face paint on because we were doing the tramp and I was bored. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of that of the slideshow. Kind of my biggest take from Outward Bound was, well, my 3-1 is kind of overcoming anything because I don't like public speaking. So to be put straight off the back, before even reaching Anakiwa, to publicly speak was quite intense for me. But I overcome it and it built my confidence in it, which is quite nice. And cold water. I don't like cold water. So every morning they got us to wake up at 6 o'clock. Even when we were asleep on the cutters because we were on the sea, they got us to jump in the cold water. Yeah, something I overcome it, even if they had to push me in. Yes, cold water. And the long runs, waking up and running and feeling that wind across your face was quite nice. Yeah. They called them Anakiwa sets because it was a 2.6k run, 10 push-ups, 30 crunches, and then a cold swim right after. They make you run in, and it wasn't just knee height, like they would make you fully submerge your body in up to your elbows and then come right out. And you weren't allowed hot showers afterwards either. You had to deal with it. Yeah, but it was nice. Yeah. It was a nice feeling. Yeah. Yes. Any questions?
Thanks, William. That was a great summary of what you did up there, and I'm sure you got a lot out of it, as you've just been telling us. I have a couple of questions before the lights are on there. How long did you go for? How long was your experience?
8 days?
8 days.
I think.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, 8 days.
Cool. So I've got Councillor Todd.
Do you still get up in the morning and go for a run or go for a cold swim?
I don't go for the cold swim as much, but I do get up at 6 o'clock each morning still, and I go to the gym and I bike around quite a bit. Yeah.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Did you get seasick on the trip?
No, I'm quite used to the boats, and
Oh,
that's
good.
my uncle's a fisherman.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, great.
Councillor McMillan.
Thanks, William. That's brought back a few memories. I did a 5-day outward bound course last year, I think it was. But I was just wondering, did you do a solo?
No, I didn't do a solo, so we did the sea skip and the trampoline all together as a group. Yeah.
That's good. So what was your favourite, apart from the swimming?
When we went tramping, actually, there was quite a few possums where we stayed, and so chasing them around was quite fun with the group. Yeah.
Nice. And I had to sleep on the skip as well, and it was probably the worst night's sleep I've ever had.
Wasn't so bad. I slept on the mask, so had quite some padding.
I'm sure you met some very exciting people on the trip who are all learning the same thing, doing the same thing, all nervous and inexperienced, so that would have been great. Any further questions, councillors? If not, just job prospects for next year. How have you got something lined up, or?
My job?
Yeah.
Yes. Currently working at Real Steel, a dispatch company just out of the just out of the new industry.
Industrial park.
Yeah, the new industrial park.
Nice.
They've offered me a full time contract for next year, the next couple of years, while I finish off my army cadet career. Yeah.
Would you recommend the course to others?
Yes, 100%. It was a great course to go on. It definitely helps you build yourself up as an individual, and you get a lot out of it. Spiritually, mentally, and physically, you get quite a lot out of it.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you had a great experience, and I'm also glad that the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs could put you on that course to give you what you have got out of it. So, just congratulate you for doing the course, achieving it, and also being in front of us today. And I know it's not easy doing what you're just doing right now. So, well done. So, and all the best for the future. And no doubt I'll see you at the cadets Christmas break-up function. Well, seen you there before in other years. So.
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present and share my insight on the Outward Bound course. Yes.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Yep. Councillors, next item on the agenda is number 9, Service Delivery Review, Emergency Management. Welcome. Tiaba, Femke and Jim. It's hard to see down there because of the lighting, but anything further to add to the report?
Through the chair, nothing further to add. Happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Questions? We had questions, councillors. Seems reasonably straightforward. Quite a lengthy report, which with good information on it, and shows what Jim's will do. If there's no questions, councillors, this was the Section 17A review, and there's a recommendation there that we receive the review and we continue to deliver the emergency management service in-house. Someone like to, Councillor Hooper.
I'd like to move.
The seconder, please. Councillor Brown. Thank you. Open for debate. Councillor Brown. Emergency management is an important part of what we do, so it's great that we do it in-house, and keeping it local means that when we do have an event, because one day we will have them, people are on the spot, and we have a team of one, which is Jim, but he has a lot he can call on in the need of an emergency. So, and Jim, you do a great job delivering it for our community, so congratulations to you on that as well. I have a question or comment.
I'd just like to endorse what the Mayor says, and we're very lucky to have Jim running this. Where we've come from in my first term of council to where we are today, it is amazing the work that's being done in this space. And every little settlement in Ashburton has got their own little emergency management teams, and we're really geared up for an event. It's well done to the team.
The further speakers for it, Councillor Todd.
Thank you. I support the motion, Mr Mayor. The community support for the present model is strong, and that's proven in the surveys. I think about 95%. So that's endorses our decision to keep going with our present model. So, and I have full confidence with our emergency services being delivered in-house.
No further speakers for or against. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Well done. Next item is number 10, development of climate change and sustainability strategy. Welcome, Mel. Tony. And Femke. Anything further to add to the report?
Nothing further to add,
Anything
thank
further?
you.
I'll go to questions. Questions, councillors? And you would have been emailed, the councillors, the notes from our workshop that we had on it to refresh what you talked about then. Some were, yeah. Questions? Councillor Lovett.
If we go to more of a strategy, will that mean it'll be enforceable, or, how do we, because at the moment it's quite loose, isn't it? It's minimal, and the strategy's more in depth, and will we have to follow those steps we put there more closely?
Thank you, through the chair. So a strategy in essence isn't enforceable. There's no regulatory framework that sits in behind it. It helps you to get a clearer roadmap of where you are going and why you're going and the directions that you're going in. However, the ultimate decision in terms of resourcing any further actions would always go through an LTP or an annual plan process. And so that's when the elected members, you would be able to weigh up whether this is the right time to go as far as what you think we would like to go at that point. So the decision would always ultimately rest with council.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. We're looking at, when I look at your report, you've got that when we do the strategy, it could be split into different focus areas, one being water quality and conservation. That is a little bit of a moving target. We discussed this recently, the local water done well strategy. Like, how will that be measured, and will the strategy allow for different standards over time? How would that be implemented and incorporated into the strategy?
Thank you, through the chair. So your regulatory standards will always be the ultimate requirement.
Yes.
And in terms of where we might end up over the next 12 months as we're going through our water service delivery plan journey, then this will have to be reflected within this climate change strategy also. So they will very much have to be talking to each other, and we won't be bringing you documents that don't align in this respect.
So you're not talking about surface water here, you could be talking about any water, drinking water, any water at all. So obviously we would fail on the protozoa requirements at the moment. So that would be, and then the next year we will pass, presumably, and that would be incorporated in that strategy, I'm guessing.
Yes, it will. I mean, this will be, it's still high level. And your actions will be focused on real steps that council can take to show leadership for the community. In terms of the actual detail, that'll all be part of the discussion with council as we go through the development.
Because other strategies have traffic lights, don't they? Green, red, orange, or whatever. That'll be the same sort of gig.
Yes. So we report annually on the actions and how we're tracking along those items.
Now, I recall a year or 18 months ago, it might be a question more for Hamish, we looked at what our emissions were. We wanted to know what our emissions were as a council. Have we done that piece of work to the best of your knowledge?
Yes,
we do.
Yes, we have, and Tracy has presented that to council.
Okay, so that will be incorporated in this document?
May well be.
It will be referred to in terms of the actual specific results on a year-on-year basis. It may be one of the key actions that sit under the strategy is that council is calculating its annual emissions and just monitoring them over time, or council may want to go as far as setting a specific target to aim
That's
for.
right. Emission minimisation or whatever. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Just trying to get my head around biodiversity, waste management and minimisation. We already have those strategies. So So this is just going to outline the climate change aspect of those strategies and how they're linked, and so there won't, in those two areas, won't be too much work, hopefully, you need to do, because a lot of it will already be done.
Through the chair, yes, that's exactly right. We're just planning on linking our current documents to the strategy.
Councillor Hooper?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just had a question around the pre-engagement process. Is that sort of online surveys? How in depth, or how will that all happen?
Through the chair, we're in discussions about that at the moment. We're thinking it could be a survey for the whole community, and then maybe workshops with some key stakeholders as well.
Right. Thank you.
Just on the bullet point 8, you're dividing it up into different focus areas. And follows on from Councillor Cameron. Each of those areas has an area that looks at climate change and sustainability. Do we need another one on top? Does the policy not do it? Question.
Through the chair, it's officers' opinion that we could do better in this space, and that the policy and the plan as it currently sits is very inward focusing, and that by having a strategy, council starts to show some leadership in this space. The points underneath bullet point 8 are ideas and suggestions as to how we could dovetail this work, but they're not the finite list.
Councillor Cameron?
In the workshop, we thought it was a good idea to have a climate change, strategy. We have heard before through the chair that staff are under pressure with regards to strategy development and things. How would this fit into the current timetable work schedule?
Through the chair, we had the policy and the action plan up for review in this financial year anyway, so we just see it's pivoting the resource that would have been going into that work into a strategy, so we can do it within our existing resource.
Just follow on for that question. If you didn't do this strategy, what would you do if this wasn't there? What would be the next cab on the ring? Off the ring?
We'd probably have to roll back to looking at the policy and the action plan, because they're both up for review. Otherwise, there is another strategy that's in the wings in year 2 that council might like to bring forward.
And at the workshop, the doing a strategy wasn't unanimous either, if you remember.
The workshop was just a discussion, so this is the decision here.
Councillor Lovett.
I'm going back to point 8 with, the water quality, conservation, then energy, biodiversity. Is this going to be like another job, having to find another staff member to go into all here? And if you've got a strategy, the water quality, is that going to be kind of a discussion for the whole community, and then more rules and regulations against the farming community? Or because where does it start and where does it stop? And you're going to need more staff the more you divulge into this going forward, and it's another expense on the ratepayers.
Thank you, through the chair. So the intention through the strategy isn't to go and create a beast that we then have to go and resource. It's to do what we can within the existing resource that we've got. In terms of council, as in a district council, being able to reach into farmers, for example, and to tell them what to do on their land, that's actually not our authority to do that, and that sits with the regional council. So we'll be very much staying in our lane and very much sticking to what is our core business as a council, but also providing some community leadership in this space.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Through the chair, how will this feed into the regional action plan that I think it's due to be launched early December, but we have had numerous discussions on it?
Thank you, through the chair. That's also the other issue that's coming to bring this, that's coming at the moment, that also reinforces why this is a really good opportune time to dovetail the thinking. And so we do have that regional approach coming that has gone through quite a process with all the different councils within Canterbury. So it's around trying to work out where we fit into that picture, making sure we don't try and duplicate any work that is happening at that regional level, but also giving good regard to our local situation.
Councillor Cameron?
Thank you. Sorry, just one more question, please. Sometimes you have in the report through the chair what other councils are doing, and I've done a brief Google, and various councils have various strategies called different things, but pretty much most councils have a climate change or sustainability or a transport sustainability type of strategy. Have I understood that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. Majority of councils have some form of document.
And I note the Mayoral Forum has committed to that as well. Yeah, thank you.
No more questions? Councillor Millen?
I'd like to move if there's no more questions.
Moving as is. Councillor Millen? Councillor Cameron? Thank you, ladies. Open for debate. I'll speak against the motion. I don't think we need a strategy where policy is more than adequate, I see. Don't want to give staff more work than what they need to do in this area at this stage, where there's covered in other areas, I believe, so I'll vote against. Councillors for, against, speaking for, against?
Of course, I speak for the motion. I think we have significantly larger weather events than we have had in the past. I think we have significant climate is changing for whatever reason. Climate is changing, and I think a strategy that helps us cope and manage that better and puts in place sort of everything in one spot, the policies and everything under the one strategy umbrella, I think will help ease us through that process, help us manage that process.
Will a strategy do that?
Shall I speak for or wait for right of reply?
You can't take you because you'll be right of reply. Councillor McMillan? Hooper?
I speak for, but I'm very interested to see how the pre-engagement lands and what the public think, but I've got a feeling that they'll expect this.
Councillor Lovett?
Oh, I'm going to speak against it because it could lead to more rules and regulations against out there in the community, and it's the cost of it, all this to the ratepayer. And I think we've got to look at doing the basics right now. There's a lot we can do in the climate space. Stop putting all these concrete pavements down and black roofs on houses. There's a lot we should be doing at the bottom, other than creating a big structure at the top where nothing seems to be getting done.
Right to reply, Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. We have to do this review anyway, whether it's a strategy or the policy and plan. People seem to get scared of the word climate change, and so changing climate, and it's not just about that, it's about sustainability as well. I've attended a lot of the Canterbury Regional Climate Action Plan meetings, which has been run through the Mayoral Forum. There's a lot of councils there who already have this sort of strategy or policy in place. I think it's really important. We built this building with a focus on sustainability. I think we need to look at the rest of the district in that way as well. So,
Put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is Local Government Lagoima Request Policy Review. Now, Tony, CMK, anything further to add? No. Questions, councillors? Looks like a straightforward sort of with a wee few changes to it. Yep. Someone like to move if there's no questions? Councillor Todd, seconded Councillor Lovett. Speakers for or against? Be no speakers, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. last one for you. Representation review project update, item 12, page 75. Nothing further to add. Pretty straightforward again. We've been through the process, lengthy process, taken about a year, I think, to get through it. Had the hearings, made the decision, no appeals, so here we are. Questions, councillors? Recommendation there. Someone like to move? Councillor Brown, Councillor Cameron. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Well done. Let's get that one ticked off. Come back in 6 years' time to review that policy. Item number 13, schedule of council meetings, page 81. And the schedule for 2025 is there. And I think we're going to add in some additions after the election, which the new council can adopt or not, but it'll be around governance training. Like, we know those dates that governance training will pretty much, or they'll, if we don't know them, they'll be coming out soon. So when we do know them, we can put them into the calendar. So whoever is standing or gets selected, they'll have dates in there that they know they'll be on training and so forth, inductions, just giving information really, and the new council will decide if they accept them. We've got the other council meetings in, and then again the new council will decide if they want to accept those meeting dates as well. But up until October's locked in, after that it's an indication. October 11th, I think, is it? Councillor McMillan, question?
Yeah, I do have a question through the chair. I see the LGNZ conference has moved back to the middle of July, where I think this year it was August. Where is it being held in Christchurch this year?
Teipai in Christchurch. I think it must be Teipai.
Okay, so it's quite close to. Yeah.
And this year the conference is being hosted by Canterbury. Christchurch is not a member of LGNZ. Councillor Lovett.
I'm just going to ask, once we've got these new dates in it, can we have a bigger copy of it, like we have done some other years, because it's too hard to print off in the small version of the diary. And
A3 sizes.
Yeah, thank you. That would be good.
Yes, we can make that happen.
So if you want the bigger size, then ask, is it Tony, Philippa, who would it be? Who?
Yep, if you let Philippa know, that would be great.
Sorry?
If you let Philippa know, that would be great, please.
Okay, if you want a bigger size once it's adopted, yeah. Cool. Just one question. The annual plan adoption, what date is that? In June? 30th. By the... There's one on the 16th that says annual plan.
There's no council meeting after the 18th of June. So that would be the aim if it was to fit within the this schedule.
So the 18th of June will adopt the annual plan at that council meeting?
At this stage, yes. If we need to call an extraordinary council meeting, we could towards the end of June. It will largely depend on whether we're consulting on the annual plan or not, because if we aren't consulting, then we could adopt it significantly earlier than June.
So the goal will be the 18th of June?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's what we'll aim for, correct. Yeah, no question. Further questions for me. His recommendation there. Someone like to move? Councillor Lovett. Seconder. Councillor Todd. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Item number 14, the financial report. Tanya. Should we go through them page by page if you wish? Start at page 90 to 91.
Mr Mayor?
Oh, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. I want to talk about the roading and the decision we've just made. Is it a good time to talk about now? Will I wait? It comes up next on 91.5.
Ninety-two then. We'll get to 92. You've got a question on roading? Good, okay. We're there at 92 now.
Thank you. We've just made a decision to spend that extra unsubsidised, our portion of that on roading. How will that be reported in here? Will that just be in the budget? So that wouldn't be in unders or overs, that would be, how would that be reported in this financial report?
I wasn't aware of the report that's just gone, but it depends on what kind of spending you're referring to. Was it capital spending? Was it
Resale.
Resealing.
resale, so renewals work?
It's essentially additional unsubsidised roading, but it's already in the budget.
We've rated for it.
In different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But we've sort of fiddled around the allocation, haven't we? Yeah.
Well, at the moment, it would show, it depends if it was a maintenance type activity, it would show in the operating expenditure. And if it was like an asset or renewals, also in the capital expenditure space.
Thank you.
Page 93 and 94. 95 stormwater. '96 stock water, 97 waste reduction. '98, '99. $101. Councillor Hooper.
I just had a question around the two Glasgow lease properties we freeholded. Where at today?
One is a residential property on Greg Street that came to council several months ago, and the other is a rural property just above the Rangatata campground, Coldstream, that came to council back in 2019, but it's been a long process to get a subdivision completed in order to freehold. So.
Thank you. 102, 103. $104, $105. $106 and 7. $108, $109. $110, 11. $112. Could I have a move and a second to receive the financial variance report? Councillor Wilson, Councillor Ellis. Put the motion on favour, please say aye. Thank you, ladies. So that takes us to the end of the open part of the meeting. Recommendation to move into committee. Councillor Brown, Councillor Ellis. Put the motion on favour, please say aye. Carried. Item 15.